Hey guys, so I just had a custom order through for Spirit the horse, so I thought I would just turn this into a few tutorials and you guys can paint along with me. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm finding the center of the image, and it actually is his cheek, which is going to be kind of hard to paint. So to make it easier, just above that is his eye, so I'm gonna find the middle and start just above that space. So as you can see, I am sketching in his eye and his eyebrow. Let me just pop him on the screen for you guys. And for this, I'm using my skinny mini brush, and I've actually mixed up some brown gel paint with some top coat, which is why it kind of looks translucent. It just makes it easier to erase if I need to, and when it comes to painting as well, it will cover up nicely. You guys have been asking for these tutorials in real time, so I've not sped this one up at all. I've not slowed it down. I've only cropped it in spaces where I'm actually not doing anything for a long time. So you can really follow along with this one, and make sure you tag me if you post these, because I would love to share your work on my stories. Okay, so we have the eye and the eyebrow, which is just above the center area, as you can see. And now I'm gonna work on the right side first. Because I'm right-handed, I find this easier. So I'm gonna do the side of his head, and it actually mimics the same line as the eyebrow. Don't know if you can see that. And what I'm doing is I'm just finding points that align with other points. So as you can see, the front part of his head I've done there is directly in line with his eyebrow. And I'm just kind of sketching in these lines. If there's gaps in them, I'm not worried, because this will all be covered up in the end. It's almost a case of finding like the easiest part to do next. Because if you do the easiest part, then all the puzzle pieces are connecting together. Once you have small areas done that join, you can then imagine the bigger piece. And you can really see what I mean by the right side first, because I'm right-handed. I just tend to work from center to right, and then I will focus on the other side. This brush is super thin and it's perfect for doing all of your character outlines. She is my newest brush from the Rainbow collection, and she's an absolute dream to draw with. See how I'm just placing small marks before I come in and do the final line? And the reason is because I'm having to turn the nail, I can't be too sure that it's going to be in the perfect place I want. By the way, when I had this order through, I was like, huh? I've never seen that movie. And oh my God, this movie, seriously, I was so tense through the whole thing. Let me know if you guys have seen it in the comments, because I don't know what I was expecting. I really don't. But honestly, if the movie was about an hour and a half long, and I think about an hour and 20 minutes of it was savage. Like, I couldn't believe what this poor horse goes through. But it was a happy ending, so it is worth a watch. Okay, so I'm just focusing on his, what is that? Is that a snout? A beak? Not a beak. Wait there, I'm gonna Google it. What do you call a horse's nose? Oh, a muzzle. I'm working on his muzzle right now. We keep it real in here, guys, so you know. Okay, so I'm just going to do those lines down the front of his chest, because they're nice and easy. See how this line is in line with his eye? So I know I can get that one in the right position. Now he's really starting to come together. I'm going to start working on the left side. I haven't cured this yet because I just like to perfect the outline first. But if you don't feel confident doing this, then it's absolutely fine. You can cure as you go. I would just advise you use a super light colour for your sketch in case you do need to cover up any of the lines. Notice how I'm literally just doing a line and then I'm facing the nail back to me so I can check it's right. Then I'll add another line and I'll check again. Okay, so I'm putting his nostrils in. They are just kind of like two slightly turned triangles, I would say, and they point into each other. You have to make sure that you're holding your brush really comfortable. One question I get asked a lot is, how do you stop shaking and stuff? And the first thing I say is, have you had caffeine? And if they say no, then it's usually the position you're in, because if you are leaning on your table and you're perhaps not comfortable, you're going to start to shake. So you need to make sure you're holding your brush right, your arms are right, your back's right. Get really comfortable before you even begin. Now, when doing my sketch work, I don't tend to stick to one colour. I will sketch out the character in the colour of the character outline. So for example, if you look at Spirit the horse, his outline is all in brown, which is why I'm sketching in brown. If I was to do this with black and mix it with top coat, the chances are when I come to cover it up, it's going to be a pain because I'm going to have black lines everywhere, or, you know, transparent black lines, but even still. So I always suggest using the same colour that you're going to finish with, just mix it with some top coat. When you are sketching in the pupils, I wouldn't worry too much about perfecting the circle shape because it can get a little messy and then tricky to erase it and stuff. I tend to just lay just a nice rough bead in the center of where the pupil's going to be. Don't really worry about coloring it in too much. So this is a good example of why I didn't cure earlier, because now I have everything sketched out and I'm comparing the nail image to my reference picture. I noticed that the muzzle is looking too small, so I'm just going to quickly wash that off with a little bit of 70% alcohol. Let that dry, and now I'm going to come in and replace it all with larger pieces. And I'm going to actually draw in the nostrils before I do the outside of the muzzle, because I think they're easier shapes to draw. So by doing those first, it's going to give me a nice guide to where that muzzle outline needs to be. And this is my Squeaky Clean brush. He's absolutely amazing for erasing small areas. He's got a tiny little nib on the end. So now I'm going to come in and finish off the muzzle. The left one is slightly smaller, so be mindful of that. They do look similar size from here, but one is bigger than the other. So this is my famous Sturdy Boy brush. He's my best seller, my OG, my favorite. I probably mention him every video I do because he is just amazing. He's perfect for doing long strokes, short strokes, everything. He's just a good all-rounder brush. Is looking good. So I'm just going to add in those teeth. Luckily we don't have to do the individual lines. They are one solid tooth, but it makes our life easier, so that's good. So once you've done all of your sketching, you want to go ahead and pop that in the lamp and give it a cure. I'm going to cure mine for 30 seconds. It does depend on your lamp and the gel you're using. And next up, we're going to color everything in. Now, for the first part, I just forget about the shading. Sometimes I'll do a wet blend, but that's more for portraits. When I'm doing animation, 3D work like this, I tend to just color block it first and then add the shading and the highlighting after. So I'm gonna color it in like a book. Now notice how I'm doing all of one color first before I move on to the next. And if it's a space that is next to a space that's going to be the same color, I will just paint over those lines, especially if I'm using a light color, because I'm still going to be able to see the lines through it. Okay, so once you've done your first colour, you want to pop that in the lamp. I just put mine in for 30 seconds, and now I'm moving on to my second colour. I initially used black, and then at second glance I was like, okay, his hair's got more grey, dark grey with maybe black lines in. So I did end up changing the colour, but I just kind of mixed it on. I think when you're doing hair and stuff, you can kind of get away with mistakes because all the different colour tones help. So yeah. So I know I said I was going to keep it in real time, but this part of the nail, you couldn't even see. I basically went off the camera, so I did speed this up because you guys don't want to see that. But just continue painting the hair. Okay, we're back on cam. And I don't know if you can really tell, but this is actually a grey. It's a very, very dark grey. I just added a little bit of white into my mix, so it's toned it down slightly. So what I'm doing is I'm doing the outside area and any strands, and then I'm just going to colour everything in. So this brush is my little cutie detailer, and it is absolutely amazing for colouring in because it's a short brush and it's not too chunky, but it's not too thin where you're going to spend ages colouring in. I absolutely love this brush for colouring in. It's one of my favourite. See how it holds a lot of paint? Whereas if I was to try and colour in with Skinny Minnie, I'm going to be there all day. It's definitely worth investing in different brushes, I think. Even though you can get a really good all-rounder like my Sturdy Boy brush, he again would take some time with this colouring in. So yeah, I think always invest in a variety of different lengths, thicknesses, and different nibs as well, which is the end of the brush. He's looking so good. Okay guys, I'm 20 minutes into this video. Please comment if you want me to keep the real time, because I really feel like this video is dragging and it's making me anxious. So if you just like it like this, then let me know and I'll keep up these full-length videos. Okay, so for his muzzle, I'm gonna mix the brown that I used to paint with him as well as a touch of black, and I'm going to darken that, and it's going to give me a really good colour to match his skin fur colour because it's going to have the same undertone, top tip. So I'm going to colour in his iris, which is the coloured part of his eye, in case you didn't know. And I always suggest using the lightest colour you can see inside it, because if I make any mistakes with a dark colour, I'm kind of in trouble. So, and it's a very, very small space. So I'm going to go in with the lighter colour, and then maybe later if I need to add some shading areas, I can do that. So with that soft, warm brown that I used for his eyes, I'm also going to use that for the inside of his ears. And I'm going to use this colour for shading as well, which I'm going to show you in a sec. So because his eyebrows are quite a small space to colour in, sometimes it's easier if you outline it first, and then you've kind of got like a little wall in essence to kind of block in your colouring in space. So before I do any shading, I'm actually going to go ahead and outline everything like I did at the very beginning, but I'm going to make sure these lines are nice and sharp. So I wasn't happy with his cheek. I feel like it was a little bit small compared to his muzzle. So I'm just gonna go ahead and rub that out and redraw it in. So now for one of my most favorite parts of this whole process, and it is the shading and blending. And this is when your 2D character turns into a 3D character like magic. So for this, I'm using my Daisy brush, which is so good for colouring in / blending. And what I'm doing first is I'm applying it to all of the darker areas, and I'm kind of spreading out the gel polish until it's thin on my brush, and then I'm gonna almost ombre it into each section. Can you see that? See it's lighter in the middle? Now obviously if this was a large area, or you know, you was doing an ombre now, you can use an ombre brush. But for small spaces, this brush is absolutely perfect. And I'm not using a lot of my gel paint either. A little bit goes a long way when it comes to blending. I also haven't mixed this colour with any top coat. I have just blended it. So I've placed it on the dark areas and dragged it so it's super thin, which creates the light spaces. Okay, so now we've done the shading on his skin. There is going to be some areas that you might have accidentally gone over with your lighter colour, etc. So you're just going to want to come in and go over some of those outlines again. You won't have to do them all. Just have a little look around and see which bits need darkening up. I'm also going to add those black lines in on his hair because if you remember, this is a dark grey I'm using. I don't think the camera really shows it that well, but yeah, it makes a difference. So here I'm actually coming in and adding some highlights and some hair strokes just to give it some more dimension. And last but not least is those very important eye whites. Don't forget those on your animation characters. It's very important. It just makes the eyes pop. So now it's time for the top coat, and you can decide if you want to do matte or gloss. I'm going to keep him super shiny though and do a gloss top coat. This is always my favorite part throughout the whole thing. It's like everything just pulls together. So I hope you love this tutorial. I have also done rain in the next video, so look out for that. There are actually 3 tutorials coming from this whole set. So yeah, hope you like this video and make sure you like, comment and subscribe.